Hello, Year 2 people. We're going to carry on with The Worst Witch today. We read the blurb, didn't we, last time, and we read about 4 or 5 pages. Today we're going to read to the end of chapter 1. Okay, so by the end of today we'll have read the first chapter. Now today I'm going to ask you our questions actually before I read the book today, so that while you're listening, you can listen for the answers. You might want to pause when you think you've found an answer. You might want to pause the video and write it down, because we've got 4 or 5 questions that we're going to go through today. Okay, so the first question is a why do you think question. So that's one of those questions where you've got to decide in your own brain why something is happening. So we're not listening for something, but you might listen for a clue. Okay, so the first question is, why do you think Mildred is chewing the end of her plait? So I think she's got 2 plaits and she's chewing the end of her hair. She's chewing her plait. Why do you think she's chewing the end of her plait? And the next 3 questions are all find and copy questions. Now you won't be able to find and copy because you might not have the book in front of you. So you might have to listen and copy. So really, really listen for these answers. The first one, or the second question, but the first find and copy question is find and copy the phrase in the text that tells you Mrs Hardbroom asked Maud and Mildred something in quite a mean way. So we're listening for a phrase that tells you that the teacher is being quite mean. She's not being very nice when she asks them to do something. Next question is another find and copy, and this time we're looking for an adverb. So remember, that's a word that describes how or why someone is doing something, yeah? So find and copy the adverb that tells you that Mrs Hardbroom continued speaking to them horribly. Okay, so which word lets you know that she continued horribly? And the last find and copy question today is find and copy the adverb that tells you Mildred quickly blew the candle out. How do you know that she did it quickly? Which word tells you that she did it quickly? Okay, and the last question, it's quite a bit of an easy one, this one I think. What animal will Mildred receive in the morning, and what is she afraid will happen? She thinks something is going to happen. What is she afraid of happening? What animal will she receive, and what is she afraid will happen? So they're the questions that you're listening out for. There's quite a few today, so you might want to pause the video. You might want to watch it a couple of times, okay? So, Mildred, we know she's not that good at school, don't we? We know that she sometimes gets herself in trouble, even though she doesn't mean to get in trouble. And we know she's probably not the best student. Clues in the title, I think, The Worst Witch. So, let's carry on. This story really begins halfway through Mildred's first term, on the night before the presentation of the kittens. It was almost midnight and the school was in darkness except for one narrow window lit softly by the glow of a candle. This was Mildred's room, where she was sitting in bed wearing a pair of black and grey striped pyjamas and dropping off to sleep every few minutes. Maud was curled up on the end of the bed, enveloped in a grey flannel nightdress and a black woolen shawl. Each pupil had the same type of room, very simple, with a wardrobe, iron bedstead, table and chair, and a slit window like the ones used by archers in castles of long ago. There was a picture rail along the bare walls from which hung a sampler embroidered with a quotation from the Book of Spells, and also, during the day, several bats. Mildred had 3 bats in her room, little furry ones, which were very friendly. She was fond of animals and was looking forward to the next day when she would have a kitten of her own. Everyone was excited about the presentation, and they had all spent the evening ironing their best robes and pushing the dents out of their best hats. Maud was too excited to sleep, so had sneaked into Mildred's room to talk about it with her friend. "What are you going to call yours, Maud?" asked Mildred sleepily. "Midnight," said Maud. "I think it sounds dramatic." "I'm worried about the whole thing," Mildred confessed, chewing the end of her plait. I'm sure I'll do something dreadful, like treading on its tail, or else it'll take one look at me and leap out of the window. Something's bound to go wrong. Don't be silly, said Maud. You know you have a way with animals, and as for treading on its tail, it won't even be on the floor. Miss Cackle hands it to you, and that's all there is to it. So there's nothing to worry about, is there? Before Mildred had time to reply, the door crashed open to reveal their form mistress, Miss Hardbroom, standing in the doorway wrapped in a black dressing gown with a lantern in her hand. She was a tall, terrifying lady with a sharp, bony face and black hair scragged into such a tight knot that her forehead rather looked quite stretched. Rather late to be up, isn't it, girls? She inquired nastily. The girls, who had just leapt into each other's arms when the door burst open, drew apart and fixed their eyes on the floor. Of course, if we don't want to be included in the presentation tomorrow, we are certainly going about it the right way, Miss Hardbroom continued icily. Yes, Miss Hardbroom, chorused the girls miserably. Miss Hardbroom glared meaningfully at Mildred's candle and swept out into the corridor with Maud in front of her. Mildred hastily blew out the candle and dived under the bedclothes, but she could not get to sleep. Outside the window, she could hear the owls hooting, and somewhere in the school a door had been left open and was creaking back and forwards in the wind. To tell you the truth, Mildred was afraid of the dark, but don't tell anyone. I mean, who ever heard of a witch that was afraid of the dark? And that's the end of chapter 1, so we'll see you in a few days for chapter 2. Make sure you answer the questions. You've got 5 questions. If you're not sure about the answers, don't forget to go back, listen. You might have to listen really carefully, but as I was reading, there were a few of the answers where I was like, oh, I found it. Okay, so go back, answer the questions, and have a think about what you think is going to happen in chapter 2. See you later. Bye-bye.